I was walking through Piedmont Park on a Tuesday afternoon, wearing my new Burberry trench coat and my favorite Jimmy Choo heels, when I saw a man pushing a stroller who looked exactly like my husband, the Palv. Husband who had vanished without a trace exactly 1 year and 3 days ago, the husband I'd spent 12 months searching for, crying over, reporting to police, and finally accepting might be dead. And there he was, alive and well, pushing a baby stroller through the park like nothing had happened. And the woman walking beside him, laughing at something he just said, was my best friend of 20 years. The woman who had held me while I sobbed into her shoulder. The woman who had helped me file missing persons reports. The woman who had told me over and over that we'd find him, that everything would be okay. My legs stopped moving. My designer shopping bags fell from my hands onto the grass, and I stood there frozen, watching the two of them living some alternate reality that I hadn't been invited to. And that's when everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and my friendships shattered into a million pieces. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I want to know how far it's traveled, because what I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible. It's going to sound like something from a television drama. But I swear on everything I hold sacred that every word of this is true. And by the end, you're going to understand why I had to share it, why I had to let the world know what happened to me, so that maybe, just maybe, someone else won't have to go through what I went through. My name is Adrienne Montgomery, and before that Tuesday afternoon in Piedmont Park, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. I'm 52 years old. I own a successful interior design firm in Atlanta. I have a beautiful home in Buckhead and drive a Range Rover. I wear designer clothes, and I've worked hard for every single thing I have. I grew up poor in South Carolina, the daughter of a single mother who cleaned houses to put food on the table, and I promised myself that I would never struggle like she did, that I would build a life of comfort and security. And I did. I put myself through design school, working 3 jobs. I built my business from nothing, taking on every client I could find, working 80-hour weeks for years, until I had a reputation as one of the best interior designers in Atlanta. And then I met Cameron. Cameron Montgomery walked into my life 15 years ago when I was 37, and he was 39. He was a real estate developer, handsome, successful, charming, everything thought I wanted in a partner. We met at a charity gala, one of those fancy fundraisers where Atlanta's elite gather to write checks and network and feel good about themselves. Cameron approached me at the bar, told me he'd heard about my work, and wanted to hire me to design the interiors for a luxury condo development he was building. And that's how it started. Professional at first, then personal, then all-consuming. Within 6 months, we were married, and I thought I'd finally found my happily ever after. The first few years were good, really good. Cameron was attentive, loving, supportive of my business. He'd surprise me with flowers for no reason, take me on weekend trips to Charleston or Savannah, hold my hand during long walks through the neighborhoods we both loved. We talked about having children, but I was in my late 30s, focused on building my business, and we decided we had time. We'd start trying in a few years. When things settled down, except things never settled down, my business kept growing. Cameron's developments kept expanding, and somehow 15 years passed, and we never had those children, never even really talked about it anymore. We were busy, we were successful, we were happy, or at least I thought we were. Looking back now, I can see the signs, the little cracks in our perfect facade that I chose to ignore, because acknowledging them would have meant admitting that maybe I didn't have everything figured out after all. Cameron started working later, staying at job sites until 9 or 10 at night, coming home exhausted, too tired to talk about anything substantial. He started taking more business trips to other cities, supposedly meeting with investors, looking at KES properties, networking with developers, and when he was home, he was distant, distracted, always on his phone, always checking emails, always somewhere else mentally. Even when he was sitting right next to me on our Italian leather sofa in our perfectly designed living room. I told myself it was normal that all successful couples went through phases like this, that the passion and connection would return once we both slowed down a bit. Once his Hoygo latest development was finished, once my latest project was complete, but there was always another development, another project, another excuse for why we weren't really present with each other. And then one day Cameron didn't come home. It was a Wednesday in March, exactly 1 year and 3 days before I saw him in the park. Cameron had left for work that morning, same as always, kissed me goodbye, told me he loved me, said he'd be home around 7 for the dinner I was planning to cook. We were going to try to reconnect over a nice meal and some wine, actually talk to each other like we used to. But 7 o'clock came and went. No Cameron. No phone call. No text. I called his cell, it went straight to voicemail. I called his office, his assistant said he'd left at 5:30, said he was heading home. I called his business partner Marcus, who said he hadn't seen Cameron since their morning meeting, that everything had seemed normal, that Cameron hadn't mentioned any plans. By midnight I was panicking. I called hospitals, police stations, anyone I could think of. The police told me I had to wait 48 hours to file a missing persons report, that adults have the right to disappear, that he'd probably just gone to blow off some steam and would turn up soon, but I knew something was wrong. Cameron wasn't the type to just disappear. He was responsible, reliable. He'd never left me worrying like this in 15 years of marriage, so I did what any terrified wife would do. I called my best friend. Simone had been my best friend since college. We'd met in a design theory class, bonded over our shared love of mid-century modern furniture and our determination to make something of ourselves despite coming from nothing. We'd been through everything together: bad boyfriend's career setbacks, her divorce, my mother's death. We were sisters in every way that mattered, except blood. And when I called her at 1 in the morning, sobbing that Cameron was missing, she was at my house within 20 minutes, holding me, telling me everything would be okay, that we'd find him together. The next 48 hours were a nightmare of waiting and worrying and imagining every terrible possibility. Had Cameron been in an accident? Had he been kidnapped? Had something happened at a job site? When the 48 hours finally passed, I filed the missing persons report, gave the police everything I could think of that might help: photos of Cameron, his car information, his phone records, his credit card statements, his passport number, his social security number, everything. And then I waited. The police investigated. They found Cameron's car parked at a MARTA station on the north side of town. They found that he'd withdrawn $10,000 from our joint account. The day he disappeared, they found that he'd used his credit card to buy a one-way ticket to Miami. But after that the trail went cold. No more credit card activity, no more bank withdrawals, no phone records, no border crossings, nothing. It was like Cameron had vanished into thin air. For months I searched. I hired private investigators. I posted on social media. I contacted every person Cameron had ever known. I flew to Miami, walked the streets, showing his photo to anyone who would look. I did everything I could possibly do to find my husband, and through it all Simone was there. She took time off from her own interior design business to help me search. She came over every day to make sure I was eating. She held me when I cried. She told me not to give up hope. She was the only thing keeping me sane during those awful months. Marcus, Cameron's business partner, was helpful too. He gave the police access to all of Cameron's business records. assured me that there were no financial problems with the Varbra company. No reason Cameron would have felt he needed to run. He seemed genuinely confused and concerned about Cameron's disappearance, and he promised to keep the business running until Cameron returned, though as months passed, even Marcus started to use words like if instead of when. After 6 months, the police told me there was nothing more they could do. They'd followed every lead, interviewed every contact, searched everywhere they could think to search, and they found nothing. They said Cameron had clearly left voluntarily, that the cash withdrawal and the plane ticket proved he'd planned his disappearance. That as painful as it was, I needed to accept that my husband had chosen to leave me and didn't want to be found. I refused to believe. It refused to accept that Cameron would just abandon me without a word. After 15 years together, there had to be another explanation. He'd been coerced, or threatened, or something had happened to him in Miami, something the police hadn't uncovered, but as more months passed, even I started to wonder. By the 1-year mark, I was exhausted emotionally, physically, financially. The private investigators had cost me over $50,000 with nothing to show for it. My business had suffered because I'd been so distracted, my savings were depleted, and I still had no answers about what had happened to my husband. Simone finally convinced me to stop actively searching to try to move forward with my life. She helped me start thinking about practical matters, like declaring Cameron legally dead so I could settle his estate. She helped me clean out his closet, donate his clothes, sort through his belongings. She was there for every painful step of letting go. And then came that Tuesday afternoon. I'd been shopping in Virginia Highland, trying to treat myself to something nice, trying to do something normal, and I decided to walk through Piedmont Park on my way back to my car. It was a beautiful spring day, warm and sunny, the kind of day that makes you feel like maybe things might get better someday, and that's when I saw them. At first I thought I was hallucinating, that grief and exhaustion had finally broken my brain, because there was no way the man pushing that stroller could be Cameron, my Cameron, who had been missing for over a year, who I'd cried myself to sleep over, who I'd spent my life savings trying to find. But I looked closer, and it was him. Same walk, same profile, same way of tilting his head when he laughed, and the woman beside him was definitely Simone, my best friend, my sister, the woman I trusted with everything. I don't know how long I stood there watching them, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 5 minutes. Time had stopped making sense, but I watched them stop at a bench, watched Cameron pick up a baby from the stroller, a baby who couldn't have been more than a few months old, watched him cradle that baby with such tenderness, such natural ease, watched Simone lean in and kiss him on the cheek, like they were a family, like they belonged together, like I didn't exist. And that's when I started walking toward them. My heels clicked on the pavement. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel my feet. All I could feel was rage, pure white hot rage mixed with disbelief and grief and 1,000 other emotions. I didn't have names, for I walked right up to them, and I said in a voice that didn't sound like my own, "Cameron." He looked up, and the expression on his face was something I'll never forget as long as I live. It wasn't surprise, or fear, or guilt. It was resignation, like he'd always known this moment would come, and he'd just been waiting for it. "Adrienne," he said quietly, standing up, still holding the baby. Simone had gone pale. She looked like she might faint or run, I couldn't tell which. "I can explain," Cameron said, and I started laughing. I couldn't help it. I stood there in my expensive coat, with my expensive bags scattered on the grass behind me, and I laughed until tears were streaming down my face, because what explanation could possibly make sense of this? What words could explain why my husband had vanished for a year, while I tore my life apart looking for him, only to turn up in a park with my best friend and a baby. You can explain, I repeated when I could finally speak. You can explain where you've been for the past year, while I spent every penny I had searching for you, while I filed police reports and hired investigators and flew to Miami looking for you while I thought you might be dead? My voice was getting louder. People were starting to stare, but I didn't care. You can explain why you're here with her, with Simone, who held me while I cried about losing you, who helped me search for you, who I trusted with everything? Simone finally found her voice. Adrienne, please, we need to talk somewhere private. This isn't the place. She reached out to touch my arm, but I jerked away from her like her hand was a snake. Don't you dare touch me. I said, my voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare act like we're still friends, like you have any right to ask me for anything. I turned back to Cameron. Is that your baby? Is that why you left? You got her pregnant and decided to what? Just start a new life? Pretend I didn't exist? Cameron looked down at the baby in his arms, and something in his expression made my stomach drop. It's not what you think, he said. Please, Adrienne, let us explain. Let me explain everything, but not here, not like this. Come to the house, we can talk there. What house? I demanded. Our house? The house I've been living in alone for a year, thinking you were dead? No, Simone said quietly. Our house, Cameron's and mine, and that's when I really lost it. I lunged at her. I don't even remember making the decision to move, but suddenly my hands were on her shoulders, shoving her backward, and I was screaming things I don't even remember screaming. Cameron grabbed me, pulled me back, still somehow managing to hold the baby who had started crying. Adrienne, stop, he said firmly. You need to calm down. You're scaring the baby. I'm scaring the baby? I shrieked. I'm scaring the baby? You disappeared for a year. You let me think you were dead. And I'm scaring the baby? People were definitely staring now. Someone had pulled out their phone, was probably filming this whole mess, but I was beyond caring. My entire life had just imploded, my entire reality had just been revealed as a lie. And these two people, the two people I'd trusted most in the world, were the ones who'd done it to me. A security guard was walking toward us. Cameron saw him too. Please, he said to me, come to the house tonight. Let me explain everything. I owe you. That much at least. You owe me? I said. You owe me? You owe me 15 years of my life. Back, you owe me the money I spent searching for you. You owe me an explanation for why my best friend betrayed me. But sure, let's start with tonight. Give me the address. Simone rattled off an address in Decatur. I knew the neighborhood, nice houses, young families, the kind of place where Cameron and I should have been raising our own children if we'd ever gotten around to it, if we hadn't been too busy with our careers, if our marriage had been real. 8 o'clock, I said, and you better have a damn good explanation. I turned and walked away, leaving my shopping bags on the grass, not caring about the expensive clothes inside, not caring about the FOV. People staring, not caring about anything except getting to my car before I completely fell apart. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over, before the sobs took over, and I sat there in my Range Rover in my designer coat, and I cried harder than I'd cried even in the worst days. After Cameron first disappeared, because at least then I'd had hope, at least then I'd thought we'd find him, that we'd figure out what happened, that there was some explanation that would make sense, but now I knew the truth. Cameron had left me on purpose. He'd chosen to leave, had planned, it had apparently gotten Simone pregnant and started a whole new life, and I'd been the fool searching for him, spending money. I didn't have to find a man who didn't want to be found. I called the only person I could think to call, my sister Maya, who lived in Charleston. He's alive, I said when she answered. Cameron's alive, He's been here the whole time with Simone, with my best friend. Simone, they have a baby. Maya, they have a baby. Maya was silent for a long moment, then she said, I'm getting in my car right now. I'll be there in 4 hours. Don't do anything until I get there, okay? Don't go to their house alone. Don't confront them alone. Wait for me. I can't wait, I said. I need answers now. I need to understand why they did this to me. Adrian, Maya said firmly, using the voice she'd used when we were kids, when she was trying to keep me from doing something stupid. Wait for me. Please, you're not thinking clearly right now, and I don't want you to do something you'll regret. Wait for me, and we'll go together, okay? Promise me. I promised, though I wasn't sure I could keep it, and I drove home in a daze. When I walked into my house, everything looked the same furniture. I carefully selected, the same art on the walls, the same throw pillows on the sofa. But it all felt different, foreign, like I was seeing someone else's life, someone else's perfectly curated home. Because how could this still be my house when everything else had changed? How could these things still be here when my entire world had just collapsed? I poured myself a glass of wine, then another, trying to numb the pain, trying to make sense of what I'd seen, trying to understand how the two people I'd trusted most had betrayed me so completely. Maya arrived at 6:30. She let herself in with the key I'd given her years ago, found me sitting in the dark in my living room on my third glass of wine. Oh, honey, she said, sitting beside me, pulling me into her arms, and I cried again, cried until I had no tears left, until I was empty and numb. Tell me everything. Maya said, so I did. I told her about seeing them in the park, about the baby, about the house in Decatur, about how Simone had helped me search for Cameron, had held me while I grieved, had been at my side through everything. That bitch, Maya said when I finished. That absolute bitch, how could she do that to you? How could she help you search for him when she knew exactly where he was, when she was living with him, raising his child? I don't know, I said. I don't understand any of this. I need answers, Maya. I need to know why. Then let's go get them, Maya said, standing up. Let's go hear what they have to say, and then we can decide what to do next. We arrived at the Decatur address at exactly 8 o'clock. It was a cute craftsman-style house, with a front porch and a yard, the kind of house young families buy when they're just starting out, the kind of house Cameron and I should have bought 15 years ago. The lights were on inside. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains, and I felt sick. You ready? Maya asked, taking my hand. No, I said, but let's do it anyway. We walked up to the front door and I knocked. Cameron answered. He changed into jeans and a t-shirt, looked more casual, more relaxed than I'd seen him look in years. Adrienne, he said. Thank you for coming, and you must be Maya. He extended his hand, but Maya just glared at him. Where's the cheating homewrecker? She asked. Cameron winced. Simone's in the living room. Please come in. The house was nice inside. I noticed with my designer's eye, updated kitchen, open floor plan, good natural light. The kind of space I would have loved to work with if the circumstances were completely different. Simone was sitting on the sofa when we walked in. She stood when she saw us. Adrian, I'm so sorry, she started, but I held up my hand. I don't want to hear you're sorry. I said, I want to hear the truth. I want to know everything, and I mean everything. When this started, how long you've been lying to me, why you helped me search for Cameron when you knew exactly where he was, every single detail, or I walk out right now, and you can deal with the police. Cameron gestured to the chairs across from the sofa. Please sit, I'll tell you everything, I promise. Maya and I sat. Cameron remained standing, pacing, actually like he was trying to figure out where to start. I never meant for any of this to happen, he began. I know. That sounds like a cliché, like something everyone says, but it's true. Adrienne, you and I, we'd grown apart, you know, we had. We were more like roommates than spouses. We barely talked, we barely spent time together. We were both so focused on our careers that we forgot to focus on each other. So you decided to have an affair? I interrupted. You decided to cheat on me instead of, I don't know, talking to me about how you were feeling? Going to marriage counseling? Actually trying to fix our marriage? It wasn't like that, Simone said quietly. It wasn't an affair, not at first. Cameron and I, we were both working on that Midtown project together. You remember the mixed-use development you were doing the interiors? For the residential units I was doing the commercial spaces. Cameron was the developer. We spent a lot of time together, and we connected, we understood each other, we were both feeling neglected by the people we were supposed to be close to, and it just happened. When? I demanded. When did it start? Cameron and Simone exchanged a look. 2 years ago, Cameron said, and I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. 2 years? I repeated. You've been lying to me for 2 years? We tried to stop, Simone said. We both felt terrible about it. We knew it was wrong. We ended it 3 times, but we kept coming back to each other, and then I got pregnant. There it was, the truth I'd been dreading. How far along were you when Cameron disappeared? I asked. Simone looked down. 4 months. So you knew. I said, when he vanished, when I was losing my mind thinking something terrible had happened, when I was spending every penny I had, hiring investigators, when I was crying myself to sleep every night, you knew exactly where he was. I felt horrible. Simone said, tears streaming down her face. Adrienne, you have to believe me. I wanted to tell you so many times, but Cameron made me promise. Don't put this on her, Cameron said. This was my decision, my plan. I'm the one who decided to disappear. I'm the one who made Simone keep the secret. Why? I asked. Why disappear? Why not just tell me the truth? Ask for a divorce like a normal person? Why put me through hell for a year? Cameron sat down heavily in a chair. Because I'm a coward? He said. Because I knew what this would do to you, to our business relationships, to our reputation in the design and development community, and I couldn't face it. I thought if I just disappeared, if I made it look like something had happened to me, that eventually you'd move on, you'd declare me dead, you'd be able to keep everything, the house, the business, your dignity, and Simone and I could start fresh somewhere else with new identities, new lives. That's insane, Maya said. You thought making your wife think you were dead was better than just asking for a divorce? I know, Cameron said. I know it sounds insane now, but at the time I thought I was protecting her. I thought I was making it easier. Easier? I said, and I started laughing again. That same horrible laugh from the park? You thought making me search for you, spending my savings hiring investigators, filing police reports thinking I'd lost you forever, was easier than just telling me the truth? He was trying to protect you, Simone said, and I turned on her. Don't you dare defend him, I said. And don't you dare act like you were some innocent victim in this. You're supposed to tell. Be my best friend. You held me while I cried about losing him. You helped me file missing persons reports. You came with me to Miami to search for him, knowing the entire time that he was safe, that he was with you, that you were having his baby. How could you do that to me? How could you look me in the eye day after day and lie like that? I didn't have a choice, Simone said. I wanted to tell you, I swear I did. But Cameron said if I told you he'd disappear for real, that I'd never see him again, that our baby would grow up without a father. And I couldn't risk that. I'm sorry, Adrienne, I'm so sorry, but I chose my child over our friendship. You chose yourself, I corrected. You chose your happiness over my well-being, Over my sanity. Over 15 years of friendship. Don't try to make this noble, Simone. There's nothing noble about what you did. What now? Cameron asked. What happens now, Adrian? I looked at him. This man I'd been married to for 15 years. This man I thought I knew, and I realized I didn't know him at all. Maybe I never had. Now? I said. Now I go to the police. I tell them I found you. I tell them everything you just told me, and then I divorce you, and I sue you for every penny you have. I'll take the house, the business accounts, everything you own will be mine, and you'll be lucky if you don't end up in prison for fraud or whatever they charge people with for faking their own disappearance. You don't have to do that. Cameron said. I'll give you whatever you want, the house, the money, all of it. I'll sign over everything. Just please don't go to the police. Think about what that would do to our baby, to Simone. She didn't do anything illegal. She was just caught in an unquote, impossible situation. Don't you dare use that baby to manipulate me, I said, standing up. That baby is innocent in all this, but Simone is not, and neither are you. You both made choices, and now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. Adrian, please, Simone begged. Please don't do this. I know you're hurt. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but please don't destroy our lives over this. We can, Sabin, work something out. We can figure this out together. I walked over to where she was sitting, looked down at this woman who had been my best friend, who I'd trusted with my darkest fears, my biggest dreams, my whole heart. We? I said. There is no we, Simone. There hasn't been a we. For 2 years, apparently you destroyed our friendship. The moment you decided to sleep with my husband, you destroyed it even more, when you helped him fake his disappearance, and you destroyed whatever tiny shred might have been left when you looked me in the eye every single day and lied to me so. No. We're not going to work anything out together. We're not going to figure this out together. You and Cameron are going to deal with the consequences of your actions, and I'm going to rebuild my life without either of you in it. I turned to Cameron. You'll hear from my lawyer tomorrow. I want a divorce. I want everything we own, and I want you to know that whatever happens to you, whatever price you pay for this, you deserve every bit of it. I walked toward the door. Maya following me, but I stopped and turned back. One more thing, I said. What's the baby's name? Simone looked surprised. Hannah, she said quietly. Her name is Hannah. I nodded. I hope she grows up to be nothing like either of you, and then I left. I walked out of that house, got in my car and drove home, and somehow I didn't cry. I was done crying. I was done being the victim, done being the fool who'd been played by the two people she trusted most now. I was angry, and I was going to channel that anger into making sure Cameron and Simone paid for what they'd done. When we got back to my house, Maya made us both tea, and we sat at my kitchen table planning my next moves. First thing tomorrow, Maya said, you call the best divorce attorney in Atlanta, not just a good one, the best. You tell them everything and you take Cameron for every penny he has. Already planning it, I said. But what about the police? Do I tell them I found him? Maya thought about it. That's tricky legally. Cameron didn't commit a crime by disappearing. Adults have the right to leave their lives if they want to. But he did waste police resources, make a false report in a way you could probably press charges. But it would be messy. I said, it would drag this out for months, maybe years, and honestly, Maya, I don't want to spend any more of my life on Cameron Montgomery. I want this over. I want to take everything he has, leave him with nothing, and move on. What about Simone? Maya asked. Are you going to tell people what she did? Ruin her reputation in the design community? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I don't have to tell people the truth has a way of coming out all on its own, especially in Atlanta's design world. Everyone knows, everyone talks once word gets out that Cameron's alive, that he's been living in Decatur with Simone, that they have a baby together. People will put two and two together. They'll figure out that Simone knew where he was the whole time, that she helped me search for him while living with him. The design community will destroy her reputation without me having to lift a finger. Good. Maya said, they both deserve whatever they get. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the past 2 years, thinking about all the times Simone had sat in this very house, had comforted me, had helped me search for Cameron. All while knowing exactly where he was, all while carrying his child, all while building a life with him behind my back. The betrayal was worse than Cameron's, at least with Cameron. I could understand it on some level. Our marriage had become hollow. We'd grown apart. People fell out of love, it happened. But Simone? Simone had been my best friend for over 20 years. We'd been through everything together. I'd been the maid of honor at her wedding, had held her hand through her divorce, celebrated every success and mourned every failure with her. We were supposed to be sisters, supposed to be there for each other, no matter what. And she'd thrown it all away for what? For a man who was willing to fake his own death to avoid an honest conversation? For someone who'd proven he was capable of the most elaborate deception? What kind of life did she think she was building with someone like that? The next morning I called the most prestigious divorce attorney in Atlanta, Veronica Steele, a woman known for absolutely destroying unfaithful spouses in divorce proceedings. Mrs. Montgomery, Veronica said when her assistant finally put me through. I've heard about your situation. Word travels fast in certain circles. How can I help you? I want everything, I said. My husband faked his death for a year while I spent my life savings searching for him. He was living with my best friend, raising their child, while I thought he was dead. And now I want to take him for everything he has. The house, the business accounts, the cars, every single thing we own. I want him to walk away from this marriage with nothing. I can absolutely make that happen, Veronica said. But I need to ask, are you sure you want to go scorched earth? Because once we start down this path, there's no going back. Your husband will hate you. Your ex-friend will hate you. It will get ugly. Let it get ugly, I said. They destroyed my life. Let me destroy their financial security. Seems like a fair trade. I like you, Veronica said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Let's schedule a meeting for tomorrow morning. Bring every financial document you can find. Bank statements, tax returns, business records, property deeds, everything. The more ammunition we have, the better. I spent that entire day gathering documents, pulling files from Cameron's office, printing bank statements, downloading tax returns. I found things I didn't even know we had: investment accounts I'd never heard of, properties Cameron had purchased that I knew nothing about. The more I dug, the more I realized that Cameron had been hiding things from me long before he disappeared. He'd been building a separate financial life, keeping assets in his name, only setting up accounts I had no access to. He'd been planning this for a while. Planning to leave planning to make sure I couldn't touch certain things, but he'd made one critical mistake. He'd done it all while we were still married, which meant in Georgia's equitable distribution state. I had a claim to half of everything, no matter whose name it was in. My meeting with Veronica the next morning was 3 hours long. We went through every document, every account, every asset. This is good, Veronica said. This is very good. Your husband has approximately $4.2 million in various accounts and assets, and based on what you've shown me, I can make a strong case that you deserve more than half given his fraud, his deception, his abandonment. We're going to ask for 75%, and I think we can get it. What about his business? I asked. Can I get part of that too? His business partnership with Marcus Chen? That's trickier since it's a partnership, but we can certainly ask for a portion of Cameron's share of the profits moving forward, and given the circumstances, given that he let you believe he was dead while he continued running his business. I think a judge will be very sympathetic to your position. How long will this take? I asked. If your husband agrees to settle quickly, maybe 3 months, Veronica said. If he fights, it could be a year or more. He'll fight, I said. Cameron's not going to just hand over his money without a battle. Then we'll give him a battle, Veronica said. And Mrs. Montgomery, I should warn you, this is going to get messy. He's going to try to paint you as a neglectful wife. He's going to claim the marriage was already over, that you drove him away with your focus on your career. He's going to say things that will hurt. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the past year, about the pain I'd endured. Thinking Cameron was dead, about the money I'd spent, the sleep I'd lost, the tears I'd cried. I'm prepared. I said, let him say whatever he wants. The truth is, he's a coward who faked his own death rather than have an honest conversation. There's no spin that makes that look good. Veronica filed the divorce papers that afternoon and had them served to Cameron at his new house in Decatur. I wasn't there to see his face when he received them, but I wished I could have been. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Adrian. It's Marcus. I heard about Cameron, about everything. I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Did you know? I asked. Did you know where Cameron was this whole time? God, no, Marcus said, and he sounded genuinely shocked. I thought he was dead. I thought something terrible had happened. I've been running our business for a year thinking I was honoring my dead partner's legacy. If I'd known he was alive, that he was living in Decatur with Simone, I would have told you immediately. I swear. The business, I said. What's going to happen to the business now that everyone knows Cameron's alive? That's actually why I'm calling, Marcus said. I want to buy out Cameron's share. I don't want to work with him anymore. Not after what he did to you, and honestly, his high reputation in the development community is destroyed. Word got out about what he did and no one wants to work with him. Investors are pulling out of our current projects, clients are canceling contracts. It's a mess. How much is his share worth? I asked. About $1.8 million. Marcus said. And I'm prepared to offer you that full amount in exchange for Cameron's complete exit from the business. I know you're going through a divorce. I know you're fighting for assets. And I want to help. If I buy out his share now, that money becomes part of the marital assets you're dividing. Why would you do that? I asked. Why help me? Because Cameron's not just a bad husband. Marcus said. He's a bad business partner, a bad friend, and apparently a bad person. I've known you for 15 years, Adrian. You're a good woman. You didn't deserve what he did to you. And if I can help you, take him for everything he has, I'm happy to do it. Thank you, Marcus. I said, and I meant it. I'll have my attorney contact you to work out the details. There's one more thing, Marcus said. Simone, she's been calling me asking if I can give her design work, trying to get clients through our business connections, and I wanted to check with you first before I told her to never contact me again. Tell her whatever you want, I said, but Marcus, she helped Cameron fake his death. She knew where he was the whole time, and she lied to me every single day. Jesus! Marcus breathed. I didn't know that part. I knew they were together now, but I didn't realize she'd been lying to you while you were searching for him. That's beyond just an affair. That's sociopathic. Tell everyone. I said, tell everyone in the design community what she did. Let them know exactly what kind of person Simone really is. Consider it done, Marcus said. Over the next few weeks, the story spread through Atlanta's design and development community like wildfire. Everyone was talking about it. The designer whose husband faked his death, the best friend who betrayed her, the baby that was the catalyst for it all. I couldn't go anywhere without people staring, whispering. Some people were sympathetic, brought me coffee, sent flowers, told me how strong I was. Others seemed to think it was all very entertaining. Gossip treating my pain like it was a reality show plot, twist created for their amusement, but the professional consequences for Cameron and Simone were swift and brutal. Cameron lost almost all his clients, investors, pulled out of his developments. The few projects he had left stalled without funding. His reputation as a reliable developer was destroyed. Who would want to work with someone who'd proven himself capable of such elaborate deception? Simone fared even worse. The design community is small, and reputation is everything. Word spread quickly about what she'd done, how she'd helped her best friend search for a husband she was living with, how she'd lied and manipulated, how she'd betrayed one of their own. No one would work with her clients, canceled contracts, other designers refused to collaborate with her. Her business, which had been thriving, dried up almost overnight. I wish I could say I felt bad about it, but I didn't. They'd made their choices, and now they were living with the consequences. Veronica was making excellent progress on the divorce. Cameron's attorney had tried to argue that we'd been separated, that the marriage was already over before he disappeared, but Veronica destroyed that argument. We had credit card statements showing Cameron had bought me flowers 2 days before he vanished, text messages where he told me he loved me, plans we'd made for our anniversary. The judge was not sympathetic to Cameron's position at all. The judge was a woman in her 60s who'd been presiding over divorce cases for 20 years, and she'd clearly seen every manipulation tactic in the book, but even she seemed shocked by Cameron's actions. "Mr. Montgomery," she said at one of our hearings, "you let your Joan wife spend over $50,000 searching for you. You let her file police reports. You let her believe you were dead while you were living 15 miles away, starting a new family. That is not separation, that is fraud. And I will be taking that into consideration when I divide your assets." Cameron tried to speak, tried to explain, but the judge cut him off. "I don't want to hear it," she said. "You made your choices, now you'll live with the consequences." And they coughed. In Veronica got me almost everything. I got the house. I got 80% of all our joint accounts. I got Marcus's $1.8 million payment for Cameron's business share. I got the Range Rover. I got my freedom. And Cameron? Cameron got to keep his clothes, his personal items, and about $400,000, which sounds like a lot until you realize he'd started with over $4 million. "You destroyed me," he said at our final divorce, hearing his face pale, his voice bitter. "I have nothing left." "You have more than I had when you disappeared," I said. "You have your health, your child, your girlfriend. I had nothing but fear and grief for a year, so forgive me if I don't feel sorry for you." "I never meant to hurt you," Cameron said. "I know you don't believe that, but it's true. I just wanted to start over. I wanted a second chance at happiness." "Then you should have asked for a divorce like an adult," I said. "You should have been honest. You should have treated me with the basic respect I deserved after 15 years of marriage, but you didn't. You chose the coward's way out, and now you're paying the price." The judge finalized our divorce that day after 387 days of being technically married to a ghost. I was officially single. Veronica walked out of the courtroom with me. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Rich?" I laughed. "Not rich exactly, but secure. I feel secure and vindicated and ready to move on with my life." "You should be proud of yourself," Veronica said. "A lot of women in your position would have given up, would have accepted whatever scraps their husband offered. You fought and you won." but winning the divorce was only part of my revenge. I still had to deal with Simone. She'd been texting me constantly since the divorce proceedings started, apologizing, begging me to talk to her, claiming she never meant to hurt me, that she'd never meant to hurt me, been caught up in something she couldn't control, that she hoped someday I could forgive her. I ignored every message until one day she showed up at my house. It was a Saturday morning, 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I was in my kitchen making coffee, still in my silk robe, enjoying my house, my space, my life. When the doorbell rang, I looked through the peephole and there was Simone looking terrible, gaunt, tired, like she hadn't slept in weeks. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to hear what she possibly thought she could say that would make any of this okay. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "What do you want, Simone?" "Please," she said. "Please, can we talk? Just for 5 minutes. I need to explain. I need you to understand." "Understand what?" I asked. "Understand that you're a liar? A betrayer? That you threw away 20 years of friendship for a man who faked his own death?" "I understand all that perfectly." "I made a mistake," Simone said, tears streaming down her face. "I know I did. I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry, Adrian. I'm so sorry. But I'm being punished for it. My business is gone. No one will work with me. I'm broke, Cameron. And we're barely surviving on what he has left, and it's all falling apart. He resents me now. Resents Hannah. He blames us for losing everything, and I just need a friend. I need someone who understands what I'm going through." I stared at her, actually unable to believe what I was hearing. "You want me to be your friend?" I said. "You want me to comfort you, because the man you stole from me, the man you helped fake his death for, is now treating you badly? You want sympathy because you're facing the consequences of your own actions? I just thought maybe after all we've been through together, maybe you could find it in your heart to forgive me," Simone said. "We were best friends, Adrian. We were sisters. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It meant everything," I said. "But you destroyed it. You made your choice when you decided to sleep with my husband, when you decided to lie to me for 2 years, when you decided to help him fake his death. You chose him over me, over our friendship, and now you get to live with that choice." "Please," Simone begged. "I have no one. I've lost everything. My business, my reputation, my friends. Even Cameron barely speaks to me anymore. And Hannah, she's just a baby. She didn't ask for any of this. She deserves better than growing up in poverty because of mistakes her parents made." "You should have thought about that before you decided to destroy my life," I said. "You should have considered the consequences before you made your choices, but you didn't. You thought you could have everything, thought you could keep me as your friend while stealing my Leo. Husband thought you could lie to my face while building a life with him. Well, congratulations. Simone, you got exactly what you wanted. You got Cameron, you got the baby, you got the life you thought you deserved. Enjoy it." "Adrienne, please," she started, but I cut her off. "Don't ever come to my house again." I said, "Don't call me, don't text me, don't try to contact me in any way. You are dead to me. Do you understand? You are nothing to me. You're less than nothing. You're a cautionary tale about what happens when you betray the people who love you." I closed the door in her face, and I walked back to my kitchen, and I finished making my coffee, and I didn't feel bad, not even a little bit, because sometimes the best revenge isn't some elaborate scheme or public humiliation. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living. Well, is taking back your power, taking back your life, and refusing to let the people who hurt you take up any more space in your world over the next few months. I rebuilt my life, my business, which had suffered during the year I spent searching for Cameron, started thriving again. Clients I'd had to turn away, came back new. Projects came in. I hired 2 new designers to help with the workload. I renovated my house, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to erase every trace of Cameron, every choice he'd made, every room we designed together. I made it mine, completely and utterly mine. I started traveling, something I'd never had time for. Before I went to Paris to study design, walked the streets of Rome, explored the markets of Marrakesh. I dated casually, nothing serious, but it was nice to remember what it felt like to be desired, to have someone interested in me as a person, not just as a wife or a business partner. And here's the thing about rock bottom, about having your entire life implode, about being betrayed by the 2 people you trusted most. It gives you clarity. It strips away all the bullshit, all the pretense, all the things you thought mattered, and it shows you what actually matters. And what I learned was that I didn't need Cameron. I didn't need Simone. I didn't even need the life I'd built with them. What I needed was myself, my strength, my resilience, my ability to survive anything and come out stronger on the other side. I learned that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you deepest. But that doesn't mean you should stop trusting. It means you should trust yourself first. Trust your instincts. Trust that little voice that tells you something's wrong, even when everyone around you is telling you everything's fine. I'd had that voice, the voice that told me something was off, about Cameron's increasing distance, about his late nights, about the way he'd started pulling away, but I'd ignored it because acknowledging it would have meant facing some uncomfortable truths, would have meant admitting that my perfect marriage wasn't so perfect after all. I also learned that revenge doesn't have to be some dramatic confrontation, some public humiliation. Sometimes the best revenge is simply taking back what's yours, protecting yourself, taking what you're legally entitled to, Beetlin. And then moving on, living well, showing the people who tried to break you that they didn't, that they couldn't, that you're stronger than they ever gave you credit for. Cameron and Simone destroyed my life for a while, but I rebuilt it bigger and better than before. And every time I drive my Range Rover through the beautiful neighborhoods of Buckhead, every time I walk into my gorgeously redesigned home, every time I sign a new client, or cash a check, or book a trip to somewhere exotic, I think about them living in that house in Decatur, struggling to make ends meet, dealing with a baby. Neither of them is, quote, really ready for resenting each other for the choices they made. And I smile because I won, not because I destroyed them, though I certainly contributed to their downfall, but because I refused to let their betrayal define me. I refused to be the victim, refused to let their choices dictate my happiness. And if you're watching this, if you're going through something similar, if someone you trusted has betrayed you in some unforgivable way, I want you to know this: you will survive. This I know. It doesn't feel like it right now. I know it feels like your world is ending, like you'll never be happy again, like you'll never trust anyone again, but you will. You'll survive. And if you're smart, if you're strong, if you refuse to let them break you, you'll do more than survive. You'll thrive, because here's what I learned through all of this. The people who betray you, who lie to you, who choose their own happiness over your well-being, they're showing you exactly who they are. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't make excuses for them. Don't try to understand their perspective. Don't waste your time trying to figure out how they could do this to you. They did it because they're selfish, because they're weak, because they lack integrity. And that's not your problem. That's theirs. Your job is to protect yourself, to take what's yours, to build boundaries and enforce them ruthlessly, and then to move on, to build a life so beautiful, so successful, so fulfilling, that the people who tried to break you can only watch from the sidelines and wonder what might have been if they'd chosen differently. It's been 18 months now since that day in Piedmont Park, since I saw Cameron pushing a stroller with my former best friend, I heard through the grapevine that they're struggling that Cameron can't find work, that Simone's trying to restart her design business, but no one will hire her, that they're fighting constantly, that the fairy tale they thought they were building has turned into a nightmare, and I don't feel bad for them, not even a little bit. They made their bed, they get to lie in it. Me, I'm thriving, my business is better than ever. I have new friends, real friends, who actually care about me as a person. I'm dating a wonderful man, a surgeon, who treats me like I'm precious, who values honesty and communication, who would never dream of betraying me the way Cameron did. And every morning I wake up in my beautiful house, the house that's completely mine now, and I'm grateful for the solemn betrayal, as strange as that sounds, because it forced me to become stronger, to fight for myself, to realize that I don't need anyone else to complete me. I'm complete on my own, and anyone who gets to be part of my life now has to earn that privilege. So thank you, Cameron, thank you. Simone, thank you for showing me exactly who you are. Thank you for forcing me to find strength I didn't know I had. Thank you for teaching me that I can survive anything, that I can rebuild from nothing, that I am enough. All on my mind. Own, you tried to break me, and instead you made me stronger, and I will never forgive you for what you did, but I will be forever grateful for who I became because of it. As for that baby Hannah, I hope she grows up happy. I hope she never knows the full story of how her parents got together. I hope Cameron and Simone somehow figure out how to be good parents, even if they were terrible partners, terrible friends, terrible people, because that little girl didn't ask for any of this, didn't ask to be born into a situation built on lies and betrayal, and she deserves better than that. But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is deciding where to travel next, which project to take on, whether to say yes to a third date with the surgeon. My problems are good problems now, problems I'm excited to solve, and that's how I know I've truly moved on. That's how I know I won. Not because I took everything from Cameron, not because I helped destroy Simone's reputation, but because I'm happy, genuinely, truly happy, for the first time in years, maybe for the first time ever. Because this happiness isn't dependent on anyone else, isn't built on the shaky foundation of a failing marriage or a false friendship. This happiness is mine. I built it, I earned it, and no one can take it away from me. And that is the sweetest revenge of all. Did you like my story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story on the screen. You can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.